And Curtis Blaydes, man, we're used to seeing this guy as a pretty big favorite, and that is what, having that wrestling pedigree does in that heavyweight division. However, he is not always cast as that big favorite. Most, we don't have to think too far back when he suffered that knockout loss to Derek Lewis. Chris Daukaus coming off of a knockout loss to Derek Lewis as well. Does he have what it takes to get the job done, or we like the big favorite here in Curtis Blaydes?
Well, first off, what did Chris Daukuas do to the higher-ups at the UFC to go, Derek Lewis lost, now going against Curtis Blaydes? He's fighting someone that carries the power of God in their hands to someone who is an absolute takedown machine at heavyweight. For me here, this is Curtis Blaydes. Look, Chris Daukuas, as we talked about, he rose up the ranks, very solid prospect. He is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but all we really have seen is the knockouts or get knocked out, as we saw against Derek Lewis. I think he's in a very dangerous fight here, a 5-rounder. Don't know how that really works for him. That favors Curtis Blaydes. We know that Curtis Blaydes, does have very solid striking. He is very technical with it. He is very smart with it. However, sometimes when he shoots in for that outside double, he leaves himself exposed for that uppercut that Derek Lewis sent him to the shadow realm. I think he learns from his mistakes here. I think he gets the fight to the floor pretty quickly, uses those elbows, and I think he gets it done inside the distance.
Yeah, and we've seen a little bit of an interesting line movement, Ian. As I mentioned, it's not unusual to see Curtis Blaydes as a big favorite, but this line did not exactly start where it is now. What have you seen in terms of how the bettors are manipulating this line?
Well, I think what they're seeing is they go back and they watch a little bit of tape on Chris Daukuas. And before he came to the UFC, like even a fight, I know this is kind of crazy, about 2015, he got taken down pretty easily by someone who doesn't have the same wrestling accolades as Curtis Blaydes. And he's not fought anyone in the UFC that's going to really do that to him. Blaydes sets up his shots like a wrestler from any weight class. That's what makes Curtis Blaydes. So I think people are really seeing the value here. Also, they know the type of pace that he sets for a heavyweight. Once that fight gets to the floor, I don't think Daukuas is going to be able to keep it up. If he's not standing, the power's nowhere to be found. I think Blaydes is not going to be worried at all about anything. This is a fight for Curtis Blaydes to continue to try to get back to that belt. And as long as he doesn't have to fight Francis Ngannou, he could potentially be a champion one day. He just has to watch out for when he shoots in for that double leg.
Yeah, and I see that your pick here is we're taking Curtis Blaydes inside the distance, which is interesting, man, because it goes from minus 400, it drops quite a bit to minus 140. And this is interesting to me because we just did see Chris Daukuas finished. He's not known as a cardio machine. I guess we'll see if this fight goes into later rounds what that looks like. But that is significant, man. Minus 400 to minus 140. What do you usually see in terms of, these big favorites and then taking them inside the distance? How much does that move the line, and how are you making the decision in terms of where the value is when you're going after that prop? This one to me seems like it's a pretty good value when you got 25 minutes. But what kind of conversation goes in your head when you're thinking about, does the guy get the finish or not?
For me, you got to look at who Curtis Blaydes is, the type of style that he presents against someone in Chris Daukuas, and you just said it best. He's got 25 minutes to get this done. The minute that fight goes to the floor, Daukuas is not going to be a threat. That whole black belt, being in jiu-jitsu, we've seen Curtis Blaydes go against people like that. He passes guard. He doesn't make poor decisions on the ground. His ground and pound is excellent. He elbow in the UFC, if I'm correct with that stat. And what I try to do is I try to shrink these odds down. When there's such a favorite that we're so confident in, we want to mitigate risk. So we try to find a method of victory that makes the most sense. I don't see him getting a submission win here. That's not what Curtis Blaydes does. I see him be able to pass the guard pretty quickly, get into side control, and really use those elbows and ground and pound. And like you said, Brett, and I agree with you, 25 minutes is an eternity to get this done, and Blaydes needs to make a statement here.
Last thing, real quick on this fight, how are you viewing Chris Daukuas? Are you seeing this as just a really bad matchup here with Curtis Blaydes? Do you still see him as a potential top prospect, a guy who can mix it up with the top 5 guys, or is he just another guy to you? I think that by putting that context on who we think Chris Daukuas is might help people in terms of how they're betting this fight. How do we view Chris Daukuas at this point?
Look, it's hard to say Chris Daukuas isn't a good prospect and he's just another guy. When he went from fighting someone like Shamil and then going to fighting Derek Lewis, a lot of people have lost to Derek Lewis. Almost everybody has lost, even including Francis Ngannou. This is up to Chris Daukuas to really tell us where he's at. Losing to Curtis Blaydes is also not no shame in that. Blaydes is a top heavyweight. I think Chris Daukaus kind of got moved up the ladder. Sometimes short notice fights, sometimes these windows of opportunity, people get blinded by the light a little bit. I think for Daukaus, if he does lose this, he needs to take a step back, take some time, and fight people in the bottom part of the top 10 to get back and really get some more cage time against guys that are more on his level.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.